This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Last full live week before I hit the road in July, we're going to be doing all sorts of cool live on-location shows and a mix of recorded shows in the month of July as I head to the Pro Bass Camp up at Oneida Lake in New York with Kurt Dove and 25 excited high school kids. Really looking forward to being on Oneida for the first time in my life without 250 boats on the fishery. So it kind of be like 4 days of the first day of practice every time we go there. Also a lot of professional bass fishing activity going on. Obviously the BPT is wrapping up their season. We have AOY implications going on St. Clair. We have Mike McClellan back in the mix, an MLF press release. Jeff Crete withdrew from the Lake St. Clair event due to personal circumstances, but he will return for the next event. And as a result, Mike McClellan, who is currently in the invitationals, was the next angler in line, and he accepted the opportunity to compete. So Mike, he had a rough first day on St. Clair, but Michael bounced back. I think he's one of the few guys with like 5 Elite Series wins into his career, and I think he'll bounce back from that. Also, it is that time where everybody is posting smallmouth on their social media, and at Champlain, it was an absolute slugfest. Brett Carnwright won that one with 59.11. It took 34 pounds, 15 ounces to cash a check. And unlike bass, I'm going to get on the soapbox for a second, who, regardless of how many people are in the tournament, pay out 40 spots, whether it's 100 boats in the opens or 230 boats in the opens. The MLF Toyota Series actually pays out based on how many boats are in the field. So that paid down to 55th place. And it took 15 pounds a day. Our man, I just mentioned him, Kurt Dove, 136th place. He goes out, he catches 15 pounds a day. That's a 3-pound average. 136th place. Also, before we get to today's guest, who's been around for a long time, very interesting story here with Arkansas's Greg Bohannan. I do want to give a shout out. If you've watched BTL over the past couple years, remember last year we had Joel Willard on, and I got to know Joel through the Bassmaster Opens over the last couple years out of Minnesota. Really hard worker, really good dude, and had him on BTL last year just talking about the economic feasibility of fishing all 9 of the opens, and he decided to step back this year, regroup, and come back strong. Well, Minnesota has a couple of really cool champion trails up there where they're anywhere from 50 to 150 boats, some big team events up there. And Joel stepped away from the opens this year, but he just won the Classic Bass Champions Tour event on Big Stone Lake, pockets $13,000. So it's cool how stuff works out there. So they do a really good job covering that and up there in Minnesota. Also, Adam Bartuzek from the Crappie Chronicles, they just dropped, or they're fixing to drop, a really cool documentary on Jim Moyna and kind of his impact up in the Minnesota season. A guy who's been around for, well, I bet our guest today might know. Greg, you know Jim Moyna, don't you? You've competed against that guy for like 20 years. What's up, man?
No, man, that's great, man. Yeah, I know Jim really well. I mean, we competed against each other on the FLW tour I fished it for 14 years, and Jim was on it the whole time. So really cool dude, really interesting.
He is one of the, I think the word eclectic would fit Jim Moyna very well, would it not?
It definitely would. You know, if you look at some old BASS video of him from years ago, he was real clean cut, real good looking dude. And when I knew him, he had really long hair, kind of a Gallagher look to him, when he's running down the lake. But just a super nice guy. Anytime you talk to Jim, man, he was always super nice and super positive.
Gallagher being that's the comedian dude who used to smash watermelons, isn't it?
It sure is.
All right. Well, thanks for jumping on BTL. I think this is the first time you've been on BTL, isn't it? Were you on with Jeffries
It is.
a couple times back in the day or not?
No, I met Jeffries fishing some Central Pro-Am events years ago, but I've never been on BTL. No, I have not.
Oh my gosh. You don't know if he listens to this show, which I know he's probably busy bowling or something. You have no idea how much the Central Pro-Ams mean to him. He could not go a month it was all about the Central Pro-Am show. And we have a Jeff Crete, a Mike McClellan, and a Central Pro-Ams reference already in the show. So for those in the Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas area, Central Pro-Ams was where it was at.
Man, when I was in college, man, that was the deal. I mean, that was the deal. There was a lot of sticks in that, and a lot of guys got to cut their teeth on that. And I did too. I fished the co-angler side of it for a year, and then I fished the pro side of it for several years. And so it was a fun event and ran really well.
Is that how you would say you cut your teeth then? That was your entrance into the serious tournament stuff?
That was my entrance into professional fishing, was the Central Pro-Am, and I started just like right out of college, and I was still working full time then, but that's kind of how I got my start before I jumped into the BFLs, trying to qualify for the FLW tour.
All right, let's talk about this year first. You made a switch. We're talking 2007 through 2022. So you had 15 years on the FLW tour, MLF Pro Circuit, MLF. Yeah, I think it was because they just changed to the invitationals. And then you were one of the guys who opted no MLF competition, 9 Bassmaster Opens in 2023 with the goal, I would assume, because no one else would in their right mind do this without the goal of making the Elite Series financially, to qualify for the 2024 Bassmaster Elite Series. So we're a little bit over halfway through the year. We can go through some of your stats because it's absolutely insane how good these guys are catching them this year. But just kind of talk through the decision to go from somewhere you're so comfortable, had so much success, almost right at $1 million in earnings between the Toyotas and the FLW tour, to kind of jump into a completely new phase in 2023?
Yeah, I was kind of excited to make the change. I didn't like a lot of the stuff that had changed on it wasn't FLW anymore. And when they did away with a championship and they took a lot of the payouts out, I just thought it was a good time to move. I'd been thinking about, before I ended my career, I'd like to try to qualify for the Bassmaster Elites, and I just thought it was good timing, and so it's been a great experience. Hank and the whole group are extremely welcoming. My folks at Pringles were excited about the move. That they thought it would be a good move and bring Pringles to the bass side of things. They've been a fun group to represent. So, but it's been. I heard Bobby Lane say one time, it's like running the gauntlet to make the elites through the opens, and I believe that. With 225 boats, it is just. As you well know, it's tough during practice to figure out how to practice. It's tough during the tournament, to figure out where to start. And it's, it's a little bit of a chess match with 225 boats, but I've really enjoyed it. It's been I've had a pretty consistent year. Nothing to set the world on fire, but I think we're in the 30 something place, a little over halfway through the year. And so there's still a chance to make that top 9. So we haven't shot ourselves in the foot, but we need to catch up in the next couple.
You're used to big fields. Obviously, the FLW tour had anywhere from like 130 to 170 guys on it, varying per year on kind of the same size fisheries. Just kind of compare, though, is that extra 50, 60 boats and 4.5 days of practice make a big difference when it comes to preparation, as opposed to preparing for tournaments with 2.5 days of practice and 150 boats?
I think it's an absolute huge difference. Wow. I mean, you add, 150 boat field is big, but when you get to 200 or 225, I mean, it impacts practice a lot. And 5 days of practice, I mean, that's a lot of fish being caught, and I'm not a fan of 5 days of practice. I usually don't practice on Saturday. I just think Saturday's way too early. If you're trying to build something for a Thursday tournament, Saturday's just way too early. And if you get on something on Saturday, I think it leads you down the wrong path. So I hope we shorten the practice days in the future. I plan on staying on the opens for a few years. Hope to make the elites one of these days. But yeah, I think it's a huge difference in a 150 boat field versus 225. Major difference. Major impact on the fish themselves and just fishing pressure. Finding somewhere to go.
All right, you're a longtime pro. You know how this works. One of the things that I've heard the guys who are established pros talk about, and the difference, especially between the FLW Tour and the Opens, is Opens you pay your $1,800, you're in. You have a wide level of talent, from guys like you with $1 million, guys who have won elite series like Bobby Lane and Ish Monroe and all that, to guys who this is their first time fishing from the front of the boat. I mean, that's the truth, even though it's right or wrong. Talk about how to practice and the difference between established pros. How many fish do you think you guys catch? Do you think the guys who are newer in this stick way too many fish? What is the shake off to jack ratio throughout practice, would you say?
Well, I've always had a 2 fish limit. I mean, if I go somewhere, I start down a bank. If I start in a pocket, I like to catch 1 or 2 to see the size, to see what the fish are doing. But once I catch 1 or 2, or once I make that decision that I'm going to fish that area in the tournament, I'll not make another cast in there. I don't want to show them anything else. I mean, I do bend the hooks in sometimes if I'm flipping docks or something, but I still don't want to show those fish bait after bait. I just have a 2 fish limit. If I catch a couple, I think the area is going to be good in the tournament, I just get out of there. I don't want to be seen in there. I don't want to pressure the fish. And so I think sometimes guys catch too many fish, but I don't want to speak about someone else, but me as a whole, I just want to catch a couple, and I do want to know what size they are. I've made a mistake early in my career where I was shaking off everything, and then you get back in a tournament and they're all 10 inchers, and so I want to catch a couple, check the size. But once I make the decision, I'm going to fish at the tournament, man, I'm out of there.
A little bit reinvigorating for your career. At this point, you have 7 FLW Cups, 12 Toyota Championships under it, kind of starting over like that. I've talked to a couple of the guys who have been there and done that, so to speak, and they're all like, dude, it's a different feeling. I like grinding it out. I like the importance of every single point mattering. I like trying to, in a way, like it's a different feeling is what they're saying. Have you gotten that too? Kind of the different excitement, changing leagues, fishing for something else as opposed to this kind of the same old grind. And is it easy to get into a rut in this deal?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get in a rut, but I like the long season. I like 9 tournaments. I mean, I'm kind of a grinder. I haven't set the world on fire, but I've been able to make, be pretty consistent over the year, make a lot of championships. And so I like a long season because you can stumble a little bit normally. Now, maybe not this season, but normally you can stumble a little bit in 9 seasons and still make it up. And so I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of excited to fish all 9, see where you end up, because I like a long season. I like every fish counts. And I like to see where we come out at the end of this season, because I think we got some fisheries coming at us that are going to really shake things up. I think St. Lawrence Seaway can shake things up. Definitely Watts Bar. If you saw the BFL weights in Watts Bar, that place is going to be an absolute
like 6 pounds for a top 10 or something.
Yeah, 7 pounds to make the top 10. So we've got some stuff coming at us that I think if a person were to have a couple of good events, and you could really make up a bunch of ground in a couple of these tournaments coming up.
Yeah, and then I think people are also underestimating the Lake of the Ozarks event. I fished that time of year at the end of September, and there's a lot of 3 to 5 pounders in that lake, and there's a lot of spread out 3 to 5 pounders in that lake at the end of September, and you still have half of the recreational traffic at that time of the year that's kind of hanging on before they put the big boats up, because so many of them are on the lake. So if we have good weather and spread out fish, that one is going to be way, and I think it's a 15-inch limit too, way more of a grinder than people are giving it credit for. And it's on the back half of Watts Bar with only one event left. So you're going to have 30 to 40 guys that are in the mix that are tail spinning after Watts Bar that have to go directly to Lake of the Ozarks after that. So I think that September 8th through September 22nd is going to determine a lot in the point standings.
Yeah, I do too. You know, Lake of the Ozarks is probably one of the best pre-spawn lakes in the country. I mean, it really has them. But in September, late September, people will be amazed at how tough it is to get bit there. There is a ton of fish there, but I have fished it several times and you know, had some really good events there. But late September, man, it's really hard to get bit, deep or shallow.
All right, here's what I want to do. I want to take our first break of the show. You mentioned it a little bit. You mentioned Pringles, one of the most recognizable boats on tour over the past 2 decades. You've also had some other very interesting sponsorships and wraps with Pop-Tarts and Old Spice. So I want to dive into that because I think there's a misconception that it's just like, oh, Greg kept the Walmart stuff from the old FLW tour days, but like, there's a lot more behind the scenes to that I've learned that are in our pre-show meeting. So I want to dive into that when we come back. It's another fresh week of BTL's Monday, June 26th with Opens EQ angler Greg Bohannan. We will be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
So I'm a big guy, you know, a lunker, a 2 sandwich eating kind of man. And on behalf of all of those bigger, I gotta say it once and for all, it's bad enough that the fish look smaller in our hands. The last thing we should have to worry about is getting quality outdoor clothing that fits. Avco, any fish, any water.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at shorelineboatandrv.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa. All right, welcome back, BTL, on a Monday, talking with Bassmaster Opens EQ angler and longtime FLW Tour pro Greg Bohannan. I do want to remind everybody with 4th of July coming up, if you have not created an account over at Omnia Fishing, it partnered with BTL this year, based up north there, go to omniafishing.com. If you order the stuff before noon, it ships on the same day typically, but they are doing a Land of the Free giveaway on July 7th that includes 1 year's worth of Wild River beef jerky, Black Rifle coffee, an inflatable kayak, Leopold sunglasses, Omnia gift cards. Create your account. You get you get an entry into it, and a valid entry includes an Omnia created account. You can also download and print an entry form. So Omnia always has cool stuff every week. So I try to highlight something that they're doing. All right, let's get back to Greg Bohannan. And at Bugs Island, I actually talked. That's kind of what kind of led to you coming up BTL, because I was like, well, I was sitting there talking with you and James Niggemeyer, and I was like, well, why have I not had you on BTL before, Greg? And you're like, I don't know, why haven't you had me on BTL? And I said, all right, we got to change this. But my day 2 partner, his name was Zach Pringle. And it didn't really dawn on me at the time. I kind of been friends with him. He's from the Carolinas. I stayed with him a couple years ago when we fished Lake Norman. Him and his dog, cool ass dog. And anyway, I randomly drew him at Bugs Island, and we idle past you in the morning, and he's like, oh, yeah, it's Greg Bohannan. Yeah, give me some Pringles. And then he lifts up his socks, and he's got Pringle socks on. Zach did. And I was like, boy, this guy is a big, and then it dawned on me, okay, kind of makes sense. The Pringles boat, his name is Zach Pringle. There's the Pringles cans. But dude, one of the most recognizable raps out there, and kind of I would love to know the story of how you got it. Cause like, I was one of those guys that just assumed it was like a FLW deal that just kept going, but you were like, no, man, that's all me.
Well, let me tell you how it started from the word go. I started on the FLW tour in 2008. And I had a lot of success in the Toyotas. I'd won the points and then finished second in the championship. And coming into the FLW tour, I ended up doing pretty well right off the bat. Well, I got picked up on an FLW team deal for Pop-Tarts. And so that was a great deal. I'll fish for those guys for like 6 or 7 years. And then Kellogg's got out. And when Kellogg's got out, it really opened my eyes to the opportunities that are through some of these big corporations. You know, they have bigger marketing budgets. They pay more money. And so through a couple of friends, I'd worked some charity events with someone from Old Spice, and so Procter and Gamble, which owned Old Spice. And so, man, I just begged them and said, hey, I'd like to get 5 minutes with the head of marketing. And so I was able to get that, did a PowerPoint presentation, talked about the fishing industry, and had a friend of mine, Craig Scarborough, put it all together. And it really went well. Picked up a deal with Old Spice, and it's a really lucrative deal. Fished for those guys for 3 years. They were loving the deal, and then changing marketing people, and bam, they're gone. You know, all of a sudden they just removed the program. So I'm actually sitting in church one day, and Aaron Elliman, who I'd worked with on a Pop-Tarts team, tapped me on the shoulder during church, right before church started, and said, hey, man, been following you on the Old Spice deal. Everything looks great. Man, it looks like a fun brand to represent. He said, now I'm working with Pringles now. And he said, we're doing a lot of new marketing stuff. He said, if something ever happens, give me a shout. He said, we might be able to do something with Pringles. And so that's how it started. And I said, well, I'll call you on Monday morning, because I just got the email a few days before that. So I felt like it was divine intervention, you know. And so that was 6 years ago. And so I've been able to represent Pringles the last 6 years. And it's been an awesome, fun brand to represent. You know, we every year we do something for kids. We did a Pringles fishing camp last year, Pringles Fishing Academy last year. We gave away, worked with Luz and Strike King, gave away, everybody got about a $400 pack of outdoor gear and rods and reels. And we brought Bill McDonald and Anastasia Patterson in, and did some really cool stuff with them. We just did a children's shelter fish where we provided lunch and fished with all the kids from the Northwest Arkansas Children's Shelter. Really cool event last week. So every year we've tried to do something to give back and do something with the kids. And so they've been an awesome brand to represent. They've been really involved. We're actually doing a Pringles Big Bass event on August 19th coming up on Beaver Lake. We're going to do it real early in the morning, 6 to 11, but we're going to pay $400, $300, $200, $100 every hour, plus $5,000 overall for biggest bass. And every entry fee goes to the children's shelter. So we're going to have a really good fundraiser coming up. So it's been awesome, Brand. Like I say, it's really recognizable, and I've been able to get branded with them, and I hope it continues to go, because it like I say, it's been fun, and they've been really involved, and I don't know, they've been great to work with.
You mentioned that Pringles Big Bass event. Is there any information that I could pull up on that if people want to jump in on that on August 19th?
Yes, I will have it out. I'm hoping to get all the artwork back today. I'm hoping to have everything online today. You can actually enter online through the children's shelter. You'll be able to enter here at the local sports shops here, but I'll have it on my Facebook and Instagram. I should have it by the end of the week, all that information and rules and everything. So it should be cool. The last time we did it, we had almost 200 entries, and what's cool about this is I go out and get the hourly sponsors. Some really good hourly sponsors, Wood Motor, and a bunch of folks that sponsor me, or they're doing those payouts, covering our payouts for us. And so all the entry fees are written directly to the children's shelter. So every entry we get is direct money to the children's shelter. And so it's a cool event.
Greg, I'm interested in knowing how, especially the non-endemic care that you went from what you would say the MLF Invitationals back to the Opens, which would be considered a AAA that doesn't have the live except for the remaining 3 events. And how were you able to navigate that? That kind of, did they consider that a lateral move? Or I know different guys have been like, man, they said, hey, we're good, but for the next couple years and you better make it. Or is it, are they cool with the publicity that you're giving them just based on all the other things that you're doing on top of fishing the EQs?
Well, their exact statement is, hey, you continue to do off the water what you've been doing. That's all we're concerned about. We would love to see you make the elites. But on the back half of that, Bass has given us a tremendous amount of coverage as far as pictures on the website, interviews, and the Bass guys have been absolutely welcoming to, like, myself and Bill McDonald and all this stuff, and so just that first week of being the very first tournament, you follow Oklahoma. One, we had a decent event, and had a big bass and everything. But we had a lot of pictures, and they were just really happy with how Bass was displaying us on the internet and all the social media channels.
All right. I gotta ask the high school age question here, but do you just get like as many Pringles as you want? Like how does that work? Can you put like an order in like at the beginning of the year and then like a pallet of Pringles shows up?
Exactly what happens. Actually, we do a lot of public appearances. We do a lot of, my first year we did 20 Walmart appearances, and that's kind of how we branded this deal or how we developed it is we take the boat and truck to a Walmart at an event. I usually leave a day early, and we give away I set up a little tent, give away Pringles, and so I would have at least a pallet or 2 show up in my shop, and we would give them away, and it's so fun because you pull up at a gas station. And it's just cool because all the kids come up and they want product, and I usually have product to give away, and so that's been fun to me. So it's like I say, when I say it's been a fun brand, it really have all the brands I've been able to represent between Pop-Tarts, Old Spice, and Pringles. I'll take Pringles there all day long because so many people like them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying now. So I think Dollar General has some Dollar General only Pringles flavors. I'm seeing some like limited Pringles flavors now in some gas stations. It's almost like kind of collecting football or hockey cards, the different flavors. But if you were to give us your top 3 Pringles flavors for a day on the water, what 3 are you going with? And then throw in like a bonus wild card flavor that we probably haven't tried yet, but need to keep our eyes open for.
Okay. First of all, cheddar and sour cream are my favorite. It's a blue can. It's by far my favorite. Number 2 would be cheddar. I love the cheddar ones. And number 3 would be barbecue. And so, those are my top 3 and we give those away a lot, but probably an outside one is probably pizza. I didn't think I would like the pizza ones, and they are absolutely awesome. So right now in my truck, if you see me at a gas station, we'll be me like you are headed to New York here in a couple of weeks. And so if you see me on that long trek to New York, stop and get some Pringles. And if anybody sees me along the way, stop and get some Pringles because it's the only Pringles boat and truck out there. So if you see me, I've got some for you.
All right. My question is, have you tried, and I'm looking at it right now, have you tried the Philly cheesesteak Pringles yet? Because that one has piqued my interest, but I've not been able to get my hands on them. I've been looking at the Walmart for them, but I just want to know, is that worth continuing the search for the Philly cheesesteak?
I have not tried that one, and I think that's a special run one. I'm not really
Look,
good
there
on
it
all my
is.
flavors. I think it's a special run. Yeah, there it is. There it is. But I have not tried that one. I have tried a couple of the international brands, salt and seaweed. I would probably prefer
What?
cheddar over salt and seaweed if you get a chance. But yeah, there's some crazy ones when you look internationally.
I'm looking this up. Salt and seaweed Pringles.
Yeah, my son. I don't know how we got our hands on one sometime, but my son really liked those. I wasn't a big fan. I'm a big fan of Pringles, but not those.
My goodness, there they are. Look at that. Pringles, salt, and seaweed. Discover the incredible flavor of Pringles. We've packed loads of chips at the top of each can. Salt and seaweed Pringles.
That's right. There's like 25 flavors here. It's all produced out of Jackson, Tennessee plant. It's pretty cool. They produce all this product out of one facility. But now when you get internationally, I think there's like 200 flavors internationally. So there's a lot out there.
Wow. Competition wise, and we didn't really dive into this. Like, what have been your thoughts so far on the fisheries that we've had? You talked a little bit about it, but I mean, I'm competing in them. I think I'm 62nd of the points. You're still alive. I'm no longer alive, but I could still win to get on Grand Lake. So it's that gambler's mentality. But I feel like it's been a very good mix of fisheries that I thought would fish drastically different. And now that we're 5 in, and we talked a little bit about this off air, the younger guys with their mix, it just seems like there's a group of guys that are doing the same thing in a lot of these fisheries that are paying off, Greg. And it's a little bit shocking to me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, as far as the venues, I think it's great venues. We've been to good fisheries that have a lot of fish in them, and I think you need a fishery that's got a lot of fish when you have 225 boats. But there's a group of those kids up there at the top that are just absolutely killing us, and they're utilize Garmin Live Scope and they're just throwing everything out the window and say, if I don't see them, I'm not going to throw at them. And so someone like me that has cut your teeth on weather patterns and lake patterns and stuff like that, it's a little hard for me to just throw everything out the window and just go live scope the whole time. And so, but it's a good lesson. I mean, it may be something that we have to do in the future. I still think there'll be a bunch of shakeup coming up at us. I don't think these guys can maintain that type of. I mean, I'm blown away with Trey McKinney and John Garrett and those kids.
Milliken's doing it.
Wrecked them every time, and so those two may continue to do it. But I still think there'll be some shakeup coming at us. But as far as venues, I love where we went. I think Bass has done a fantastic job of mapping out these venues, and I hope we keep going to places with a lot of fish. I know Watts Bar does not have a lot of fish in it, and so that'll be different. But overall, I've been impressed with the venues.
But dude, like you're a veteran. You've been doing this forever. I mean, I'm not a veteran by any means, but I've been covering it. My rookie year covering this was 2008 too. Like I remember covering that season and going into that Angler of the Year race, covering it for basszone.com. I was working with Chad Morgenthaler at every event. We were doing, every day we were doing pre and post tournament, and he'd go out and fish. It was a heck of a year. But dude, seasonal patterns where they're supposed to be grinding out fish, going down the bank, like, dude, that's like a pro's pro day, just grinding out a 14-pound limit. Like that's a thing of the past now, Greg, with the live scope, with the mapping, with what these kids are doing. They're taking fisheries that they know nothing about. They're going into areas where they know there's fish, and they're saying in 5 days, I'm going to find these fish in here. I don't care where they are, what they're related to. I'm going to ignore all seasonal patterns. I mean, this is a seismic shift in high-level tournament bass fishing, the likes of which we haven't seen since like the 60s.
I would agree, and maybe this year is a little bit different just the way that these guys are doing it. But, I'm kind of a grinder and I'm kind of a go down the bank kind of guy. And I really, and I've lost a couple fish that would put me way up there. I had a dead one that you followed. I mean, at Wheeler that really cost me. I don't like that non-cull rule on dead fish. Really cost me a couple pounds. So I've had the opportunity to maybe be 20 places higher. But I was hoping that maybe, hey, the live scope gets a bunch of guys off the bank and we'll survive on the bank with less people. And maybe that's still an opportunity out there. But it's funny. I heard a couple of these guys say, one of them said, why would I cast if I wasn't looking at a fish on the scope? And so that's a new concept for me, for sure.
I might disagree with you. I think maybe, like you said, Watts Bar and that, but the guys, I'm gonna say I scope a lot too, but the guys you should have been able to go down the bank at Toledo Bend. That was one off. You should have been able to have all of it to the bank it yourself. That was one off scoping. You follow Oklahoma 150%. You should have been able to go down the bank and catch them. That was one offshore scoping. Wheeler Lake, you should have been able. There were some fish. There were a lot of fish checks that were cast shallow, but the majority of that was. We're running out of opportunities to get for guys who want to go down the bank and have all the guys out there battling for the live scope fish. I think this is going to be the season of the scope on the EQs, because it's not, the current on Thousand Islands and that Ozarks and Watts Bar are going to be one scoping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure they will, and I really think maybe nowadays, if it's not a spring tournament where the fish are all up shallow, or it's not a dirty water tournament, then it's going to be one scoping. It's kind of the way I'm starting to think about it.
All right, let's talk home lake, because like I said, I started covering the FLW tour in 2008. One of the best stops. I would say the best stop for the FLW tour. The top regular season stop every year was when they trucked all the Walmart employees in to the stadium there in Rogers, Arkansas. You had Charlie Evans. You had the lights, the boats. It had a cup feel to it every year when you guys went to Beaver Lake. And I remember every year, Greg Bohannan from Northwest Arkansas, one of the favorites out there. You've had some top 10s out there. You've also struggled a little bit out there. You've had some middle of the pack finishes, but there's really no one better to talk about how to approach a major tournament on your home body of water than you are, because you had so many cracks at it at Beaver. What are some of the things over the years that you learned about fishing big tournaments on your home body of water?
Yeah, that's a catch-22. I remember my first top 10 there, and walking up through the fog, following George Cochran up the stage, and making that first top 10 there was really awesome. And coming on stage, and there was, seemed like there's 3,000 or 4,000 people in that auditorium, and half of them knew me, and so it was really cool to make a top 10 there. But boy, it was one of the hardest events, and I did not like it. I didn't like fishing my home water, because you have that extra pressure on you. And Beaver Lake and any Ozark Lake is so condition oriented that, how you catch them today is not how you're going to catch them tomorrow. And we fall into, and then you probably experienced it, you've caught fish so many places over the years that it's hard to not fish on history. You think, man, I've caught them there before, I'm going to run there. Instead of going into a fishery where you don't have any knowledge, and you just figure the fish out, what they're doing right now and what they're doing today and what they're doing tomorrow. And it's just so hard on you when you fish your home water not to fish history. And I've seen it time and time again. And I wasn't very good at doing that, because I've caught so many fish early on Beaver and all over the place. And, I just get to running around too much and not fishing the conditions of what was going on. The one time, I think I finished third there one time, and that was because it was flooded and high and muddy. And I fished the conditions of that time, instead of the rest of the time figuring out what the fish were doing right then. So I don't like fishing a home water. I would rather go somewhere new. And I look back at my track record over 15 years. Every time we go somewhere new, my finishes are usually much higher, because you have no preconceived notions. And I think that's the best way to fish, with no preconceived notions. In fact, I don't like getting any help. I actually got quite a bit of help on Eufaula, and I haven't got any help on any lake, but I'd never seen the place, and I wanted to know some good areas to go to, before off limits and all that stuff. And I think it's terrible. I hate getting information because it drifts you off on the wrong path instead of trying to figure the fish out what they're doing right now.
I found, and I'd be interested if you could confirm this or not, but I found, you can get information in the Bassmaster Opens up until the day before practice starts. It's a completely legal. It's been that way. The Opens have been the Wild West. What I found is if you talk, like I like to talk to 2 or 3 people about generals, I'll make notes, and then anywhere where all 3 of those generals match, like if it's a section of the lake or if it's a primary bait or something like that, that's kind of how I take it then. So like if I chat with 3 people about it, no waypoints, nothing, but all 3 say this section holds a lot of fish, I can put all that together, and that's kind of how I roll with the information.
Yeah, I think I'm just done, period. But I told my wife when I got home, you follow us, I'm just done getting information, period, because it never, I might have in 15 years might have helped me one time, and I just don't like to get it. Some guys are different. I know guys have made their career on getting information and being able to capitalize on it. But I would rather go out with an open mind and just run and see what looks good, and as opposed to getting help. I just think when you start trying to run help or run waypoints, you just start running to spots and you're not even thinking about what the fish are doing. And I think it gets me started in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I've talked about it for years. Inattentional blindness. You can't see what you're not looking for. And if you're looking for something, the human brain out of survival instinct says this is what's important. So that's what sticks out to you. And you are incapable of seeing everything else that exists around you. That's why so many guys who have crappy practices have such good tournaments, because you'll hear them say, I wasn't on anything, because they went into tournament day, open-minded, conditions changed. They were willing, instead of if they went in just catching them on riprap, they go, damn, I fished every stretch of rock on the lake and I only caught 2, and they run right past the docks, where a guy who didn't catch anything was like, I'll fish the riprap, then I'll fish the dock, then I'll fish the clay point, then I'll flip some grass, and they're more likely to find them.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at your stats here on beaver. You're really good on Lake of the Ozarks in September, bro. Like September, October, like you have a lot of top 10s, like grimy 12 to 14 pound days. Like you've made like 4 or 5 top 10s in the fall. Like you have to be kind of jacked about that one.
Yeah, I like it. I won a BFL Super Tournament there, and so I think that's the last time I won one. I've had some top 10s there. I just like Lake of the Ozarks. Like I say, it's a grinders tournament. There's not a lot of fish going to be caught, and so I like my odds when I can just, hey man, if I got to catch 12 to 13 pounds a day and be pretty good, I seem to do pretty good at that. I mean, I've had 2 seconds, a third, and a fourth in the Toyota Championship, and it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of a grinders tournament that time of year, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to Lake of the Ozarks for sure. And got to get lucky and get a couple 4-pounders to bite each day, and sometimes you can do that with what I like to do there.
You're a Ozark guy, but you love Florida, right?
I mean, I've had some good events. I've had a lot of good events at Okeechobee. Finished second there one time. And
how does that work? Because that's an anomaly. That's an anomaly, dude. You're not supposed to be able to catch them in Florida, being from the Ozarks, which is the only section of the lake with 0 grass in it.
But you can catch them there moving a bunch, and I seem to be, my better tournaments are when I can turn the handle on that lose reel, and so a lot of times in Florida you can turn the handle on stuff or move fast, pitching really fast. The particular tournament where I finished second there, I was burning a topwater bait the whole time, and gosh, that was fun.
Will you walk us through the bite? Here it is right here.
Okay.
Let's watch it real quick.
Back then it was all right.
Go ahead, talk us through it.
Well, I'm working a grass flat here and burning a Gambler Big Easy over the top. If they could have had a camera on me the first day, I had 27 pounds the first day, and that particular, I probably had 7 or 8 bites like that the first day. So those big females were coming in. There's a bunch of tilapia in the area, and I think they thought that bait was a tilapia, And when they would hit it, it would scare you to death. It was absolutely awesome. I was shaking the whole time by the end of the first day. And so it was a fun event.
So that wasn't the only fish that hit it like that. If you're listening to this on the iTunes, it's Greg Bohannan. He's reeling a hold on. He's reeling a bait across the surface, and like a 5-pounder eats it like 3 feet from the freaking boat. And he just like cranks a boat, flips it. You mentioned that, it jogged my memory. I forgot that is the iconic bite you were talking about, right?
That was, it was exciting because it was on the final day and it was on camera. And the first day you don't have a camera boat with you. And I remember that tournament. I only had like 6 or 7 pounds, like at noon, and I'd made a move to an area where I thought they might be coming to, and I caught a big one on that topwater bait, and I thought I'm just gonna throw it the rest of the day. And I had like 7 bites that day, and they all just, they were just pissed
Trashed
when they
it.
hit it. I've never experienced anything like it, and I've never experienced anything like it since. That was where I had an area called the Python Patch that I saw a giant python in that I was flipping each morning, and I caught like a 6 2/4 out of the Python Patch, and which is no longer there. I've been asked several times, man, where's the Python Patch? Well, I guess the storms and everything did away with the Python Patch, but I've been back to that area several times, but it's never been the same.
Yeah, that's the thing about Florida, is it changes. Like the techniques and things stay the same, but like major weather systems completely change, like islands and reed patches and things like that. That's not really the case in the Ozarks, though. Like good spots are good spots. Like, is there anything in the Ozarks that you used to? Let's throw Grand, Table Rock, Beaver, Lake of the Ozarks, that whole area. Is there anything that like used to be good and isn't now, or once you find productive areas, do those fish tend to in some way utilize that year after year?
I don't think you hardly ever catch them the exact same spots, but you catch them in the same areas on the same patterns. If it's cranking in the fall, you'll catch them on the same maybe bluff lines in the fall that you do in the spring, but it'll be a different area on that bluff line. But general areas are good. But as far as exact spots, that's the thing about the Ozarks. Everything is so condition oriented. A Beaver Lake or a Table Rock, if you get a cloudy, windy day in the spring or the fall, it's going to fish just 100% different today than it does tomorrow if it's bright and sunny. And so, Ozark fishing to me is just condition fishing, and you got to adjust those conditions every day in the Ozarks.
You get the same. You get the same feeling launching every morning that you did running out onto the football field. I know you're a big time athlete, college athlete. I played hockey in college, and there's that feeling that you get very few times you can get it after your athletic career is over. But do you get those same jitters and excitement fishing that you did running out onto the ball field in Arkansas Tech?
Yeah, almost. I used to throw up before every game in football, and so we would stretch, we would warm up, and then I would go puke off to the side of the field, and at least now I don't puke before every tournament, bass tournament. So I never have. I thought I was. My very first pro event, I almost puked, and I thought, man, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And so luckily I don't throw up anymore, but I did before every football game. And in fact, if I didn't throw up before the football game, my coach would come and make sure I did, because I always played a lot better after I'd thrown up.
What are your thoughts as far as the mental aspect of high level stick and ball sports athletes transitioning to bass fishing? I mean, we see like Brian Bickles fishing some of the opens, former NHLer, Brian Robinson. He's a former NFL player. There's I think Deion Sanders literally just said in an article that if he'd been a 3-sport athlete, bass fishing would have been his 3rd sport. But a lot of guys, to me, it seems either high level athletes or completely nerded out on fishing and didn't play athletics at all. Do you think there's a little bit of an advantage to having a kind of a killer instinct, I guess, that you develop that you can then translate onto the water? Or is it just kind of luck of the draw as to whether you can catch them or not?
No, I think there's a lot to that. You look at former college athletes, Jason Christie, Hank Cherry, Lee Livingston, Mark Rose. I mean, the list goes on of guys that were
Legacy.
college
Yeah.
athletes. It's just that work ethic. It's that hey, you learn how to win, you learn how to lose, especially the sport of football. I mean, it teaches you a lot about life, on how to work as a team and just the mental struggle through it. I mean, I think I came in with, I think there was like 50 freshmen that came in my freshman year, and there were 5 of us that graduated our senior year, and so there's a mental toughness to it that it's a little bit like fishing, because you're going to get your teeth kicked in fishing, and I've been on both sides of it, had some really good years, and I've had some sorry years, and so you just learn how to be tough and how to grind forward and how to look forward. The rear view mirror is small for a reason, and the windshield is big for a reason. You got to look forward, and you can't fix anything from yesterday, but you can sure work toward the future.
Isn't momentum such a weird thing? Like, you would think it really wouldn't. You wouldn't make that much of a difference, and you can talk yourself into this is going to be the change. But like, what I'm finding this year, like, it's such a weird thing to try to wrap your head around momentum. Like in a deal where you're casting to a fish underwater, I swear sometimes they can sense, or you can sense, or what the heck is with momentum in fishing? I mean, you can't like quantify it, but it freaking exists. It's a real thing.
It's 100% a real thing. And I equate bass fishing more. I played a couple years of college baseball too. I was on a football scholarship, but I played a couple years of college baseball, and I equate fishing more to like hitting a baseball. It's so mental. And when you're seeing the ball, when you're hitting it, man, you can't, it looks like the size of a beach ball coming up there. And then when you get in a slump, man, the harder you try, the worse you do. And you think about it too much, you're guessing too much, as opposed to walking into the plate, digging in, not thinking about anything. My coach used to say, hey, put the tongue to the top of your mouth and you step in a batter's box. And he said, what do you think of? And I'm like, nothing. That's right. That's what you need to think when you step in a batter's box. Is don't think anything, don't guess anything. Same way with fishing. The more relaxed you are, the more you let things happen instead of trying to press and make things happen. And so I equate fishing to a lot like hitting a baseball, because hitting a baseball is hard, man. I mean, it really is. And this sport of bass fishing is too, because there's so many guys that are so good at it. And but I think a sports background really helps you. But momentum, like you were talking about, momentum is huge. When you catch a big fish, you have a good tournament, you're probably going to have 2 or 3 good tournaments.
Have you ever been through that deal where when you hook one, you automatically are like, got it, and then you go through other stretches where when you hook one, you're like, please, oh gosh, please just stop, don't come off, but it's weird because it's like an internal struggle. You go months where as soon as you hook it, you're like, oh, that fish messed up. And then you go through months where as soon as you hook it, you're like, okay, how am I going to lose this one?
Hey, I've been on both sides of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. When you hook that fish and you're fishing well, you don't even think about it coming off. You just flip it in the boat or whatever. But when you're in a slump or you're struggling and you've lost a couple fish, the first thing you think is, oh my gosh, please don't get off. And we probably do something a little bit different, as far as in our reaction time or babying that fish too much or whatever. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been on both sides of it, to where I know it's getting to the boat or I know it's coming off. Just like walking to the plate. Well, I know I'm going to hit the ball, or I may strike out. I'm worried about striking out, and you're probably going to strike out.
It's manifest destiny. All right, Greg, what else we got here? I know that I've kept you for a segment. We talked about a bunch of stuff. Anything else that you want to get in before I let you go?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, it's been a fun year. Like I say, I've enjoyed the opens. I'm looking forward to this next one, see what the back half of the season brings. I'm hoping that some of these kids maybe falter a little bit. I don't wish bad stuff on anybody, but my gosh, there's some of those kids fishing at a high level. And so we hope we can maybe hit a home run or two here in the end of it. And like I say, I encourage everybody to kind of watch my sites coming up for our Pringles Big Bass event. And somebody's going to make one cast on August 19th and win $5,400. So, and your entry fee is an automatic donation to the children's shelter. So we'll have a cool event coming up.
You'll have that on your website too?
I will. I'll put it in all 3 places.
There it is right there. Greg Bohannan.com for all that. And then if people want to know where they can find you on the road, handing out free Pringles. Just stay tuned to your social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that, and they'll know where to show up.
Yep, I've got a Facebook athlete site and an Instagram site, and if we're going to be giving away Pringles somewhere, I'll definitely have that on there. And like I said, I'd encourage people, if you see me at a gas station, you see me somewhere, come up. I definitely have some free Pringles for you.
Good stuff. Well, I greatly appreciate it, Greg. Thank you for jumping on BTL this morning, and have a safe drive up to New York here in a couple weeks.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right. See ya. All right. That was Greg Bohannan, Bassmaster EQ Angler. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a first one-of-a-kind thing that we are doing tomorrow on BTL with owner of the Bass Tank, Scott Palmer. We will have both of our Bass Cats on the water live, Garmin electronics, live scope, and mapping. Also, I will have my Lowrance unit there. We've had some questions that have already been brought in, but for an hour and a half, we'll be live on the water, going through settings, troubleshooting, optimization, and mapping. We'll be jumping back between the two boats, showing the differences in trolling motors, graph mounts, setup. You have some issues, email matt@basszone.com that Scott can actually be aware of. Like I said, he's towing his cat from the Bass Tank headquarters. I'll have my cat from the garage. We're going to jump out to a lake close to here, and instead of having him next to me and talking about it, it's going to be a show and tell. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back. BTL on a Monday from Shawnee, Oklahoma. We'll be back right after this.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out. I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the Matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look. That matte sexy shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, wrapping things up on a Monday here, Bass Talk Live. I want a big shout out to Greg Bohannan for jumping on BTL. Like I said before the break, really cool show tomorrow, something that we haven't done, but something that we have at our disposal now is the ability to go live from the water, kind of a additional little perk to BTL and the Bass Tank. Scott Palmer, owner of the Bass Tank, will be on hand with his boat. And if you have an electronics question, I know we call him the mad scientist. He'll go an hour and a half into like how exactly down imaging, side imaging works and talk about cones and frequencies and all that. And I said, that's great. We're going to do that with mapping big time. And I said, but how about we just get on the dang water? He said, I like that idea. So we're going to get on the water. If you have a question, I think I've already got 10 or 15 questions into the email box. Get it to me by this afternoon, which is Monday, the 26th. Matt at basszone.com. Something if you are having an issue or want to learn something or see the difference or compare that I can talk to Scott about. And then on Wednesday, we will talk to the Golden Ram himself, Clifford Perch. We'll jump on BTL to talk about the Northern Swing. He's a guy who has translated success in Arizona to up north. He's also a big swim bait guy. He doesn't like to talk about that, but Cliff Perch knows how to catch him on a swim bait. We've seen him in some classics and some Elite Series events around some bridge pilings with some out of production swim baits. We might get him to talk a little bit about that. And then as always, day 4 with Frank Scalish. And then we are hitting the road. There's going to be some live shows throughout the week, possibly a live show from Frank Scalish, a live show from Oneida, a live show from ICAST, and a live show from the St. Lawrence. Good Lord, I'm 6 different locations gone for 38 days starting the first week of July. So we'll do as much as we can to bring the BTL crew. I do have one recorded show with Elite Series rookie Bryant Smith from California, top 20 currently in the Angler of the Year, 3rd in the Rookie of the Year race. Got to know him last year in the Opens, particularly on Lake Hartwell, and a really good dude, some unique strategies. And he's a guy that literally was like, hey, I'm gonna roll with this until it no longer makes sense. And he kept rolling with it because he kept catching them from the Toyotas and BFLs out west to the NPFLs to the Bassmaster Opens and now all the way to the Bassmaster Elite Series. So look for that show in the first week of July. Other than that, we will be back live tomorrow morning from the lake with Scott Palmer, the mad scientist from the Bass Tank. All right, that's all we got, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.